Hello, my lovelies! Junio here, the author with no last name. And I'm also a dev editor, a fashion designer, and a game dev. And I've been focusing a lot more on the game dev stuff lately. So today I want to talk about Horse Family Simulator 3D and Asset Flip games. This is Horse Family Simulator 3D. It's a free game you can find on crazygames.com. Horse Family Simulator 3D is part of a group of family simulator games that are all asset flip games made in Unity. There are 3 variations of these family simulator games. There are the ones with the UI like Horse Family, and then there's ones with a different UI and pricing structure like Unicorn Family, and then there's Dragon Family, which has a different look, different UI, and flying mechanics with 3 times the amount of bugs. In Horse Family Simulator, you play a horse, obviously, and the goal is to level up your horse, get a mate, and make a family. In the upper left-hand corner, you have your health and your stamina. You can keep track of your gold and the bushes you've collected. You get your health back by eating bushes, and you can raise up your level and stats by gaining experience and leveling up, or buying different upgrades in your home or in a marketplace. You get experience and money by partaking in quests around the rather large map from other horses. These quests include deliver things, races, decorating, gather objects, defeat bosses, and mini-games like falling object, click on the screen, ping pong, and memory match. The quests are set up in a cycle, so no matter what horse you click next, you'll get the next quest in the cycle. The first time I went through the cycle because my horse was low level, it took me about 2.5 hours. The horses and quests are set up in such a way when you finish a quest, there's another horse with another quest, or even 2 or 3 within a few minutes walking or running distance. This game is set up with the WASD or arrows movement. I recommend WASD for once, and you hit and hold shift to run, space to jump, and click to attack. Yes, you can attack animals in this game. You can also swim. Some of the races require swimming, which is awesome. There is an enemy HUD up in the right corner of the screen, and it shows the animals nearby in the bushes. Green won't bug you, yellow will leave you alone but are tougher if you get close to them and attack them, and red will attack you if you get too close to them. In this game, you can double your coins and experience if you watch ads. I've never gotten ads to work even with the ad blocker off, so it's never mattered to me. But everything is pretty reasonably priced, so you don't need to turn on the ads, which is cool. In Unicorn Family, not so reasonably placed and lots of killing things. Very boring. Stick to this UI version of the game. I mean, there's tiger, panda, wolf, and cat or dog in this version, so plenty to choose from. Maybe panther? I'm not sure. And some of them, the quest cycles are actually longer. I think Horse Family was the first one, so it has the least amount of quests and technically the smallest map. So why are we talking about this game in particular? Because, despite it being an asset flip game, it's a good game. It is not a great game. It is a couple hours of fun. You can get at least 6 to 8 hours out of it if you level up your main horse to level 10. That's as much time as I got out of Star Stable The Autumn Riders. There is a lot of controversy about asset flip style games, and so I want to have a conversation or give my opinions about it as a game dev who doesn't have the technical learned skills from going to art school. I went to art school for fashion design. My focus is on branding, cosmetics, art direction, and story because I've been writing since the late 90s. This also feeds into my philosophy on game development, which is opposite of what they teach you at game design school. More in a bit. My opinion on asset flip games is thus. If they are mechanically and story-wise a good game, then they are a valid game. Then again, I'm against gatekeeping in all forms. I love the fact that there are engines like Unity and Unreal and studios and developers willing to make assets and sell them to people who want to try their hand at putting together a game. It's cool to see programs to help with animating and blending assets together to create new assets. Technology is awesome! It's not games like Horse Family Simulator 3D that give asset flip games a bad name. It's the scams, like, well, Dreamworld, which is apparently improving, but in improving looks like everything else, and is not what they promised, and Earth 2, and all those different metaverse, NFT, Bitcoin-style game scams out there that take a couple of assets from the Unity or Unreal store, toss them in the game engine, and then call it gameplay with some buzzwords, and take money from people without ever really planning on delivering a game that's playable with actual mechanics. You can still make fun game mechanics and put in a good story if you're buying the assets from a store, and the game can look relatively decent. Let's look at Horse Family. The game looks decent because most of the assets are from the same asset studio. The environment, the houses, the people, they're all from the same set of artists. Even the visual effects are from the same studio. And by I mean look decent, it means they look cohesive within each other. The animals are from a different artist. The items such as the weapons you collect, the balloons, and the torches are from other artists but are in a low poly style. They aren't the exact same low poly style, which is why this is a good game, not a great game. It's difficult, even in a low poly style, to get a cohesive set of low poly stuff. The only thing I can't find in the Unity store is the horse with the armor. But it looks like it matches the same art style as the other animals, so I'm not sure if they did a commission or something, or the horse was up and they took it down. I don't know. I could even find the UI, which the buttons look very similar to SSO's UI, and the grass texture actually looks like the old grass texture in SSO. Very intriguing. The game looks fine. It's low poly. It is actually a good start for what could be a bigger game with more quests and an actual story. And if they care to take those assets like the balloons and the torches and redo them in the same 3D art style. It's a very basic ad-supported game, and that's fine. I mean, it doesn't have what we'd consider horse game mechanics. You can only walk and run, for instance. There's no show jumping or dressage, just cross-country style races, and you have to find them in the quest cycle. So this brings me back to my game philosophy. Horse Family is a very basic style game, and for free and in a browser game, I honestly don't expect much else. It feels though like a prototype for a bigger game. There is a very popular method taught even in design schools and online programs. When you come up with an idea for a game, you need to start working on a hard prototype with gameplay right away. Being able to get some free 3D assets in Unity or Unreal and toss them into the engine and easily create an environment enforces this mentality. The most important part of the game is the stuff you can see. I agree, it's important to at some point have a hard version of the game you want to create in order to sell the game as a whole or use it as a way to lure investors to fund your game so you can make it big and shiny and maybe with assets that aren't bought from a store. However, if you have an idea and just start building it, you have no idea of any type of market research or story goals or conflicts or challenges you want to put into the game. Pantsing in game dev is not the way you want to go. When you are building a game, you are building a product for other people to consume. You, the game dev, are not the only person who is going to end up playing this game. Writing a book or making a game for yourself is all well and good, but that makes it a market of one. one person doesn't put money in your pocket, food on the table, or a roof over your head. By going directly into an engine and starting to build systems you may not need yet or don't know if they work for your game concept, skips the steps of researching and developing your game. The development part of game development, you're skipping finding out what works and doesn't work for your market. There has to be more than you and what is already out there, and making a plan on how to develop your game. It's fine to put a bunch of assets together to get a working prototype, and yet if you don't develop your game through research and concept art development, you might end up with a very basic, unfleshed out game, or a game you don't know what the end result is supposed to be, or a game that is like every other game. Remember, RuneScape but better isn't a valid pitch. Now, there are going to be great asset flip games out there. There are people who like making horror walking sims, and they use pre-made art assets to create their environments. But if they didn't create a story and use camera direction and lighting properly in their games wouldn't be as good. There is a very niche audience for horror game walking sims, and I'm not it. But if you like horror game walking sims, good for you! But take these low poly assets in Horse Family Simulator. The studio that made these assets has a lot of different type of assets in the same style. You could make a kick-ass medieval RPG, or a Japanese style game like seen in Panda Family Simulator, or a western or sci-fi game using all of these different assets. They are a little low on animals, I admit, but the low poly animals in this game are available on the store, and they do have horses in the Western pack. The environment and assets are window dressing, and what you make of them with your story and your game mechanics, the thing that makes your game a game, is on you. Visual storytelling with interactive systems to create challenges for the player will set the tone of your game from basic to great. Look, if Star Stable Online has taught us anything as game developers and players, changing out your art assets isn't going to make your dedicated, hardcore player base happy when they want updated systems and more story. And in its original incarnation, Star Stable Online was an asset flip of Star Stable seasonal writer games, right down to the music, with assets also from Starshine Legacy. It doesn't matter to me as a game player if you've made the assets in your game or not, as long as you've paid for them or have a license to use them and the game is actually fun to play. And there are going to be people out there who will tell you, you have to design all your assets and do all your code from scratch, and shout how you aren't a real game developer if you don't. Don't listen to them. That's gatekeeping. If you are working on a game, you're a game dev. If you draw, you're an artist. If you write a book and publish it, even for free somewhere, you're an author. You don't have to be great or make money at something to be it. Are you doing it? Are you having fun? Great. Good job. You're valid. Making a game to sell, though, is a business. At some point, you'll have to stop thinking like a game developer and start thinking like a business person. Especially if you're going to be doing any or all of your own marketing and not farming it out to contractors. Why should people pay money to buy your game made with assets from the Unity or Unreal store, if they can already buy a game that has the same systems somewhere else? Platform is not the right answer. Well, they can only play that on PC. You can play mine on mobile. Yeah, no. This is part of your market research. A player who plays mobile games is going to want completely different thing than a player who plays PC or console games. A platform is a surface level thinking, and you have to get beyond it. Think like a business. Know your target market. So I guess the next question is, how do you have your game stand apart as a brand if you use flipped assets? Let's dig into it a little bit because I've got time. If your game looks like other games because you're using these same environments and assets, the rest of what makes your game a game becomes much more weighty than what it looks like. They are not paying for those assets. They are paying for the experience that goes along with those assets. So you aren't looking for the players who want the newest and shiniest and most expensive, latest style graphics. You are looking for players who are there for your systems and your story. You need to focus your marketing on your story and on your gameplay. I hate doing this. But okay, look at old school RuneScape. The graphics aren't the best. Sure, you can use mods to upgrade them and make them look HD, which is really cool. I mean, that mod is awesome looking. People aren't playing RuneScape or games like Wizard 101 for the graphics. They are playing them because there is a good MMORPG experience or a good card game experience built into the game. People aren't making and playing old school 8-bit and 16-bit platformer types of games because they love shiny graphics. Now, there is Fist, forged in ShadowTorch, coming with the anthropomorphic rabbit that looks totally awesome, with 3D assets in the old school stacked Hocus Pocus or Metroid style platformer systems. It's just that system no doubt took a lot of money to build, and good on those developers. I wish them every success. If I had the PS to play it, I would when it came out. In a way, if you want to make an asset flip game and have it stand out, you're going to have to be more creative with your gameplay than you would normally. You could even use having these assets as a way to challenge yourself to how many types of games you can make with these environments and have them be different from each other. Maybe it's a puzzle dungeon crawler. Maybe it's a medieval farm game, or a tavern sell the ale game, or both. I mean, look at the guy who made Stardew Valley. His next game is going to be Haunted Chocolatier, a game with farming and some combat to get ingredients in the same graphic style as Stardew Valley. You can also have a chocolate business, and people want it. People love it. I have seen so many farm games in that same 8 to 16-bit style graphics, and people play them and pay for them because the game mechanics are fun. The story is engaging. Yes, I can train a pet to follow me around. Woot! So, who is the main character in your game? The dwarf with the axe? Is it a mining game? Or is it the bard? Is it a music rhythm game? Could you make a horse jousting game? Or do something where they have to collect rings? Or do a racing system? Or is it all of it? I almost want to buy these assets now just to mess with it. What is the hook of this story to get your players emotionally invested in your game enough to put aside their feelings about asset flips in order to play it? Is this dwarf looking for the equivalent of the Arkenstone in order to become king? Is the bard on the run from an angry noble because he slept with his wife and now has to evade the law and bandits and still make a living? Is the knight looking to do great deeds in order to get a barony and become an actual landed noble? Is your innkeeper on the search for the perfect brew recipe? And does it differ for each race? And what happens if he serves the wrong brew to the wrong race? And why are there so many barrels? Maybe there ought to be a whack-a-mole game or a throw the barrels game in there. I know medieval times had other things in barrels to store stuff. The rest of your brand is going to be having a catchy name with a catchy tagline, with a good logo, and probably investing money in voice acting or good AI voices to make up for having skipped some of the art direction phases. If you are invested in making a game with a good story and a good set of mechanics, it could be buying assets in a store and putting them together is both good practice and a way to learn, and a way to maybe make a little money and poke at marketing if you in the future want to learn to make assets from scratch. But you don't have to learn to make them from scratch if you don't want to. Commissions are a thing. Hiring employees is a thing. There are different approaches you can take with this and different mindsets. As long as you are happy with the game as given, don't let other people get you down. Asset flip games don't have to be basic prototype style games or scams. Let your imagination run wild. Sit there and flesh out that idea before you start building. Think about what Horse Family Simulator could have been if they'd done more than create a basic prototype game. What if one of these quests you get in the game was a launching pad for the story of this horse and their journey to, I don't know, become the horse of the king, and you end up doing tasks for the NPCs to come to his attention, and the end goal of the game was now you're a night horse taking part in races and tournaments. I don't expect that type of game for free though, so I'm just saying it could be fun. In conclusion, Horse Family Simulator 3D is a good little game if you're looking for a horse game to take up a few hours where you want to play as the horse. Asset flip games don't have to be representative of scams or bad games. Assets are what you make of them, and if you focus on your mechanics and story, then your window dressing doesn't matter. People will play it. And if your story and mechanics stand out enough, even if someone else buys and uses those same assets, you will have a different brand to sell people a fun, enjoyable product. And you can build and expand on your game pretty easily with other asset packs in the same style. So that's how I feel about assets and asset flip games. They are what you make of them, essentially. Maybe you have a different opinion. Maybe you want to try out Horse Family Simulator 3D. Stay away from Unicorn Simulator. Dragon is really buggy. Whatever you do, thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves. Bless. Stay safe. And I will see you in the new year. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year!